YouTube, welcome back to the channel for another video. Today we're just going to go over my trades from this week. It was a pretty good week actually. I had 7 wins out of 9 trades, so I only had 2 losses this week. But I did have a lot of trades that I didn't take that I probably could have took and won. As you can see in the top corner here, I had 9 possible wins and 2 possible losses. So for the whole week I could have been 16 for 20, which is a pretty good win percentage. So could have been a phenomenal week, but it's okay. Had a good week, had a good return. So just wanted to go over these trades really quick. It might be a little longer of a video because it was a lot of trades I took this week. So just hopefully I can go through fast and explain my reason and logic behind all of these and make it clear for you guys. So let's just go ahead and jump right into it. So we can go back into Monday, and you see the different colors here. They mean the purple means that this is a possible win that I just didn't take, but it did go through. I just didn't take it for a certain reason. We'll get into that. The orange is the possible loss that I could have for a valid trade that I just didn't take for a certain reason. I'll get into that as well. The greens are the actual wins I took, and the red are the losses that I took. So let's jump right into it and go to Monday. So Monday was President's Day. I was very hesitant to trade President's Day. I did mention this in my previous video from weekly prep. I said, for some reason, the indices, they usually move pretty good on federal holidays. I have no idea why. You'd think they'd just be closed or really slow moving, but for some reason they move really good on federal holidays. So even though it was President's Day, it did give us a really great day potentially. I only took 1 trade here, and it gave us actually 5 winning trades here that I did break down on a previous video. I'll put the link there or a card there for that video, and we could jump right into it. I'll explain it again really quick. So I'm looking on the 15-minute here, and I'm looking at this here. I actually forgot to mark this one up too. I already have these marked, so I just want to run through them pretty fast. So I was interested in these trades because on the 15-minute, I'm seeing that these all have, start with the sell first. It sweeps some liquidity here, and it breaks a swing low here, and then it leaves behind some imbalance here. So I was looking for that, and then once it got back to this area, I was starting to look for a sell move because this is a good area for it to return to and then give a sell move. So we can go to the 1 minute here. And then I waited for the macro time frame just because it was Monday, and I was only actively marking this up. I didn't take this trade. This is the possible win. It gave us this accumulation right here, then it gave us this liquidity sweep, this manipulation and distributed down with this imbalance here, and it gave us an entry and wrote it down, and it was a pretty quick trade. It went through really fast, and that's when I was thinking, okay, that's a really clean trade. I like how this is looking. Then I went down to the 15-minute again, and we see that it mitigated another order block on the 15-minute and some more imbalance that was left behind. I'll go show that again. And you can see it here. It swept this liquidity here, the swing low here, broke to the upside, broke these swing highs, and it returned back to it. And it's a little bigger on a different broker, the one that I actually trade on. It's a little bit more of an imbalance and a little more easy to see. But you also see there's a valid order block here as well. And it returned back to it, and then it gave us a few buy moves. I'll show those now. So once it returned to that area, it gave us this move right here, right outside the macro, like 2 or 3 minutes right before the macro. And I didn't take this one either, but this is a very valid trade. It is a little sketchy being outside the macro, but it's still valid. It went through. And you see this one, this one formed in the macro, so this is even a more valid trade, and this one went through as well. And then on the 15-minute, I saw those two play out, and that's when I really kind of just understood okay, it is going to move pretty good today for the NASDAQ, even though it's federal holiday. It still moved pretty good. So I saw those two, and I had this area of interest marked up as well, because right here, you can see it sweeps this liquidity here. Just barely, but it does sweep this liquidity. It goes a little higher. I'll zoom in some more. It sweeps this liquidity. Then it breaks down below these swing lows, all of them, and it leaves some imbalance here. So I already had that marked up while I was looking at these buys. And I was basically anticipating price to come up to it and mitigate this area. So I was thinking, okay, I can probably take advantage of the next trade, if there's another buy move to that area, and buy it up to that area probably. And that's pretty much what I did for this continuation. So in theory, I probably would have took this trade on a regular day and potentially left a runner on one of these trades to at least this supply area here. And I didn't, because this is President's Day, so I just decided, okay, I'm going to just take this continuation because it's been really clean, 3 really clean trades before this. So it gave us a clean trade here with this accumulation here, slight manipulation here. It's really small to see, but you can see it manipulated that, and it has a liquidity sweep there. Then it distributed above and left imbalance here, so I entered there. And this is right at the macro open for the 1150 macro, or 1050 macro, excuse me. And it goes right to it. It's like a 10-minute trade. So yeah, 1052, 1106, yeah, like 10-minute trade, and then it went through, and it went and hit that supply area. So that was my only trade for the day. I felt really good just taking that and just being done, because I did miss these other 3 trades, but I also know it's federal holiday, so I didn't want to spend too much time trading that day. But then it went to that area, and as expected, it was a supply area. It gave this valid reaction and then a valid sell move, and it, on a different broker, it shows that it kind of hit TP right here. But even if you did hold it, it would have hit take profit right at market open, because the market did close at 1 and then opened back up at 4 or 6, I should say, actually. 6, opened back up at 6, and then it hit take profit. So that's another possible win there. So could have been 5 possible wins that day, but only 1 for my actual account. So, but it's okay. It was a holiday. Just move on to the next day. So then we get to Tuesday, and I was looking at my only area of interest for that day, at least for that time when the market was open during the New York session. And I saw there's the order block here because it manipulates these swing lows here. Then it breaks to the upside, and it does leave imbalance, but the imbalance was already mitigated here. So I wasn't really worried about that imbalance. I was just more worried about these order blocks here. And it is a little different on this broker. You can't really see it because it's just a little different. It's not mitigating this order block, at least the 30-minute one, for the first trade I had here. Not sure why it's not mitigating. It's just different on different brokers. So just be sure to always check at least 2 brokers whenever you're trading and analyzing. They sometimes have different information. So in my actual broker, it showed that this was a mitigated order block, and then I looked down for the lower time frame, and then I looked for a buy move. Let's go to that for Tuesday. And yeah, because it was a bullish order block, I just looked for this buy move, and I believe it was within the macro. Actually, no, this one was, so yes, it mitigated this bullish order block, but it gave this move. I didn't mark this up correctly, but it gave at least this accumulation here, we'll say, and broke through. It's a larger range trade, but I actually wasn't able to take this trade, not because of anything on my end, but my broker actually went out for a few hours for some reason. So that was down, so I couldn't even enter this trade, so I just missed entry for this trade. It ended up being a loss, so I guess it was a little lucky that worked out like that, but it got back, the broker came back, and I actually entered this continuation, and this one was a valid loss, but you see there is the accumulation right here. There's a lot of manipulation here with the swing low, so a lot of this liquidity, and then it distributes to the upside. You can't really see it in this broker. It doesn't break above it, maybe very slightly, but it's a little more of a break in another broker. And then I just entered at this imbalance that it left right here, and it's a valid loss. I mean, it's just a continuation loss right there. It's a little it's outside of the macro, but it's okay. I mean, it kind of forms at the tail end of this macro, but it's okay. It was a valid loss. This would have been a valid loss as well, but I wasn't able to take it because the broker was down for a few minutes. Then moving on to the next trade, I'll go back to the 15-minute. So that was one possible loss, and it was a valid loss that I did take. So yeah, for the day I was down right there, but then I just kept with it because I knew that even though it mitigated this 30-minute, this is a 30-minute order block, you kind of can't really sell in this time frame. I'll go up to 30 and sell. Just trying to consolidate those two. It's basically it's up here. This one is a 30-minute order block. This 30-minute order block, it mitigated it, but I had in the back of my mind, even if I take this buy, it could also just push down and want to mitigate this 15-minute order block and get some more liquidity and more orders there. So I just had it in the back of my mind, and that's pretty much what it did. So we'll go back to that day and look at here. It pushed down some more and it mitigated this order block. And then it gave us another move right here. It's a bigger range that's probably not ideal, but it is still very valid to take this. So I ended up entering here. I don't know why it was adjusted like that, but I ended up entering here for that. And then there was valid continuation of the way. This was a little less ideal trade because it's not within a macro time frame, just a random time. It was like at 2:32 in the afternoon. So just took it, and it was still a valid setup. So that went through. There was valid continuations along the way, like right here. I just didn't take it because it was within the macro, and this is a really large range for it still to pull back into and still be a valid trade for at least for this trade. So I just don't want to risk that one. I'm not even going to count that one as a possible win or a loss. But you move over here, I did take this continuation because it was a little bit in profit, and it was still a pretty clean setup, and it was within the macro, so I felt just confident taking that trade, and that ended up being a valid loss. So that's okay. It barely wicked me out right here, and I did not take this trade afterwards. I should have took it and just stuck with it. Sometimes you can lose it just to be a valid loss, but you still have the right direction and bias. And you sometimes just have to stick with it. Because right here you can see, although I lost this trade and it's a valid loss, it literally formed the exact same setup. Like 2 minutes later after that was taken out. And I could have entered in this and recovered that loss easily and had a valid win right here. So this is another possible win. It was continuation that I felt comfortable. If I did feel like trading again or taking it again, I would have been able to see this and just take it because it's within the macro and has the confluence of being another move after this 15-minute order block was mitigated. So that pushed up, and then it pushed up and helped drive this towards take profit. And that's how you see that win, and then this potential loss, and then this loss. Or this potential win, I should say, and then this loss. So then, yeah, it was a break-even day so far at that point. A little bit of profit just because that had a little extra percentage on the little win because it was like 2.3, 2.4%. So then going and looking at that, I was curious to see how it would react once it got in this area. I thought it would probably react to this area probably in London session. I was assuming, but I don't really trade London session, so I wasn't really looking forward to trading this. But I saw that it pushed up relatively early and towards an Asian session and at like 7 o'clock at night. So I just looked at it, and I was just curious. I said I would just trade it and see what it gives in this area because it was an actual valid area. Actually, I'll go back and explain more why. So I was looking at this area just because you do see these liquidity sweep right here. A lot of liquidity being swept. This one, and all this liquidity here being swept. Then you see it breaking below these swing lows, and then it leaves imbalance with this order block here as well. And it's a really clean 30-minute order block, but you can also see like a 15-minute order block could use like this one or this one or this one's an order block. But let's look at the 30 real quick. And I use the 30 just because it consolidates it a little better. So you see the 30-minute here. And then it pushes up, and it's in this area during Asia session. So I went and just monitored it, and I just thought it looked pretty clean, so I just thought I would take the trade. Because I am testing it out. Because I've never really tested out Asia session before with this strategy and how I'm trading now. I just wanted to try it out and look at it. And it moves pretty cleanly. I'm going to test it this upcoming week as well, so we'll see what it's like with that with more samples. But here, once it pulled into this area, I was a little skeptical. Like I probably could have took this move here and it would have been valid, but I didn't want to take it because I knew I was probably waiting for it to at least sweep this order block or at least mitigate that order block before I took an entry. So I just didn't take this one. This probably could have been a possible loss as well, but it was also just not really clean like this one. This one's a really clean example of a trade. So here, it does look a little congested, but that's because I used this as my first entry. So you see a little bit of accumulation here within these two candles. And then you see this sweep up of liquidity that mitigates the order block, and you see it break down. And it did wick down and then close back in, and then it had a lot of bearish momentum in this candle and left an imbalance here, and I entered there for my first trade. Now this probably looks a lot better in like the 15-second, 30-second time frame, but I just kind of assumed it and just had a good pattern recognition for that one. It's a little tricky of a trade because it's just not as clean as the other one. But I also just figured this is basically a setup, a minor setup that was going to help progress for this larger setup with this accumulation here. And you see that once it breaks down below this accumulation zone, it does leave some imbalance up here, and I do enter again up here. And they both ended up going through. This was definitely the second trade was the ideal trade because it's the bigger, larger zone, and it's a cleaner example. And I just set my stop above this swing high here, and then it just went through. So those were solid trades for the Asian session. I don't really trade it often, but I probably might start doing it. We'll see. I test it out this upcoming week, but it is a smaller zone and smaller range trades, but they're still pretty valid. They were pretty clean, so took those, and those are 2 more wins that helped push me up over for the day and more profit instead of just being break even for the day. Then I moved on to Wednesday. I saw that price had started to push down, and I was looking at this area for a potential trade because it sweeps this liquidity from yesterday. It pushes down further and mitigated this M15 order block, and then it broke up all of these swing highs up here. So I was looking for price to potentially return here and give us an entry, and it did. I used this point as the order block. So I went down to the 1 minute. Let's go to Wednesday. And right within the macro time frame, this 950 macro, I don't think there's any news at this point or anything, but yeah, it just entered right here, right at the end of the macro, got the accumulation, the manipulation within the macro. Then I entered this imbalance here and held the trade. I made a trade breakdown on this as well, and you can see it's really critical to hold your trades. I know it's really close to take profit, then it's reversed, and it's a little nerve-wracking whenever it comes near your entry, because then it's going to be a loss, and you just lost all this profit, but just hold the trade, trust your analysis. Ended up going through in the next 10-15 minutes, and that was my only win for the day that I took. There was this continuation that was available as well, but I didn't like it because it's not really within the macro, and it was FOMC news at 2 o'clock that I just didn't want to take and potentially be in the market for, so I just didn't take it. Yeah, so I was pretty much done for this day. It's 11:12 when this trade ended, so I just wanted to be done for the day and not be risking being in the market with the FOMC dropped. So then once Wednesday was done, I just let price play around up here. I didn't trade Asian session this night. I just let it do whatever it was going to do. And then we have Thursday where the market opened up, and I had previous imbalance and order blocks marked up here. So this was the imbalance I was looking at, and this imbalance as well as this is the 30-minute order block here, and this is the 15-minute one. So I looked at it because it swept this liquidity here, this sell side liquidity. Then it broke to the upside, breaking this swing high at least, and then it also broke this one out as well, which is good. And then when it lets all this imbalance, and I was figuring that price would want to come through here and mitigate it at some point during the week, which I did talk about in my weekly prep video. I knew that on the daily time frame, looking at it, how it was forming, that price would eventually want to come through and at least fill this imbalance here. I did mention that in the video on Sunday, so you guys can go check that out as well. And I figured FOMC might be the catalyst to drive it down to this area, but it wasn't. It came down the next day around market open, and you see that it touched it here on Thursday, and it bounced off of this area. So I was waiting to play off this area, these imbalances here, and I'll go to it. That's why I looked for a buy, because those were bullish order blocks I was mitigating, so I'll go down to it for Thursday. And yeah, I was figuring that even though it reacted like this, it didn't really give a setup throughout this area. So I figured that it would come down and probably sweep this low and mitigate this order block, then give us a move, but it didn't. It ended up just going in within this macro, then giving this setup, which was pretty clean to set up. And then I just took it. Now, I don't know, I guess just because it's a different broker. It's not showing the mitigation or the distribution here, where it's breaking this accumulation. It's a little higher in a different broker, but it still is valid. It did show a break, and then it entered into this imbalance here. And I thought it was, a little nerve-wracking, of course, to go this close to take profit and then start doing the whole consolidation thing. But it happened. You just got to hold your trade, trust your analysis. It was very nerve-wracking. I was thought about closing here, of course, but I don't close on trades early, so I just let it run. It's nerve-wracking, and it gets back here again, and then it just pushes up and goes towards it. So it's very nerve-wracking. You just got to hold your trades, trust your analysis. I know it's not the cleanest price action whenever it's in the trade, but it still went through. So just hold the trades, trust your analysis. And that was my only trade for New York session that day. Then in the Discord, I did point out, I left these arrows up here just to show, because this is where I was trying to just show where I was looking for price to go, and then what I was going to be looking for whenever it did reach this area. So I figured price is either going to, from this area, push down and sweep this liquidity here, or it's going to push up to this supply area here and then mitigate either this order block or just mitigate this imbalance in general. Then you see it pushed up. I guess it's a valid continuation here that I just didn't take. You can leave a runner, or I could have left a runner here, but I just wanted to secure profit this week and not worry about runners too much. So here you can see that, so here you can see that it was a valid setup to continue here, and it was within the macro time frame here. So then you have this accumulation here, this distribution, and then this manipulation and distribution. I entered here, or I would have entered here. This possible win here I didn't take, and it just went through pretty quick to end the session. So solid trade there. And then this is when we get to this supply area that I just had marked up, and I was a little skeptical to take this. That's why I didn't really take it, because I wanted again for it to ideally push up to hit this order block and mitigate that. But once it's in this area and hitting this supply or the demand zone, it's valid to take the first setup as well. So I just didn't want to take it. So I saw this and I just didn't like how it formed, because it was a little wonky on the other broker as well. Because this, before it broke in the distribution, before it broke this accumulation zone, it mitigated this imbalance already. It mitigated that already before it broke. So I just didn't like how it formed, but the valid entry would have been here, and I had this marked up and I thought about taking it. I just hesitated and I just didn't take it. So yeah, it's important not to hesitate right there whenever you're certain about it, but I wasn't too certain. I was just hesitating and wanted to watch it. This is only my second time trading Asian session, at least with this strategy. So I just waited, and then that one went through, and it went through pretty quickly in like 10 or so minutes, about 12 minutes, 13 minutes. So that was a clean trade there, and then I saw that this one formed right after. This is another continuation for it, and it has the accumulation right there throughout here. Then you see this manipulation, and then distributed down with a pretty big bearish push that I haven't seen mostly through Asian session so far. So this could have been another indicator this is a right move for me to take, and I could have just jumped in right here, only risking 13 points, and then it pushed down, and it's not showing the correct TP. The levels are just different in this broker, so but it went through. It's still a valid one. I didn't take these two trades, but these were definitely two more wins that I could have took advantage of, but it's okay. Just learning and preparing for next week is what I'm going to do, to take that forward. And then just move on to Friday. I had no valid areas to really look at from this range, so I was just kind of just waiting and sitting my hands on Friday. At this point, I was considering, like, once price or market opened up down here, I was considering just not trading today, just because I'm already up 7 wins. I'm like 7 for 9 at this point, or 6 for 8 at this point. And I figured I probably just won't trade today. It's been a solid week. I've won 75% of my trades. I might as well just sit out this today and just let it do whatever it's going to do, because it was high impact news at 10 o'clock this morning. So I just didn't want to risk anything or be in the market for that news. So I saw that it was a valid, at least potential area to look for trades here, because it sweeps this liquidity here and then breaks the swing high. And then you have the order blocks here and then the imbalance here. But I didn't take anything because it just shot through. This is like the 930 candle just shot through basically, and it didn't give any entry. So I figured, okay, I'll just look at it, and it came back and mitigated more of this daily imbalance here, you see. Right now it's really shot through because it's toward the end of the session, but it shot through a lot, but it kind of just touched the beginning top of it earlier today at like 10-ish or 10:30-ish. And then you'll see that I had previous imbalance marked up here. That was from a few days ago, from last Thursday, the 13th. And this is the 15-minute order block here. This was based off of, you see it sweeping this liquidity here, then breaking this imbalance and going to the upside. So once it swept those, or once it came back and mitigated those, this is the 30-minute one here. Show it on 30B a little cleaner. That's a 30-minute order block. It's pretty clean. It's very straightforward. Came back and mitigated those. So I said, okay, I'm looking for some type of reaction, and this has finally happened basically looking for it to sweep this liquidity, which it came back and did right here. And I was looking for some type of quick reaction. I didn't think it would. I figured it would probably be some type of good trade, but I didn't think it would like push up here, so I didn't hold any runners because I just figured it's a lot of bearish momentum, and I didn't think it would push back up on a Friday. But yeah, let's get into it. So here, this is my last trade of the week. I just saw it pull down to this area. So this is the sweep liquidity right here and the mitigation of those order blocks. Then it gave this little accumulation zone right here. It's definitely interior to this big one, but I prefer to take interior one just because it's a smaller range and it's quicker for it to hit the take profit. So then it gave this manipulation of this swing low right here. Then it distributed to the upside, and I set my entry here at the imbalance level here, and it went through. It was a little nerve-wracking here. I thought it was, I guess you could say nerve-wracking. I just had pretty much a lot of patience and just trusted my analysis. But it got through, close to hitting stop loss here. I thought it would hit stop loss, but it didn't, and it ended up going through and hit take profit in, I guess, 20 or so minutes. So very solid trade. That's a good way to end the week. And did it with 7 wins and 2 losses, so 7 for 9. It's like a 77% win percentage, which is pretty solid. It could have been more like 16 for 18 or something like that, but it's okay. This is a possible loss just because this is a potential continuation I was looking at, but I just didn't want to put more of my capital at risk because it is Friday and I've had a decent trading week. I don't want to ruin it by throwing another loss in there, throwing some more trade or capital at risk and just potentially having another loss. So I just skipped over that, and it hit take profit right after that traded form. So now we're seeing that it's just pushing down, and it swept all this liquidity, and it's mitigated this, and it's probably past the imbalance zone. Yeah, it's past the imbalance zone on the daily. So we'll see what next week will give us for that play. It's probably going to have some interesting plays for next week. So I can give you guys a sneak peek into next week. So next week I'm probably looking forward to, well, I know I'm looking forward to eventually, maybe not next week, the week after, just looking forward to pull up to this area, then give some reaction that will push down at least a little bit, if not a lot, but it might just push down a little bit in this area. Small reaction, small trade. So we'll see what happens. But that's all for the video. It was a decent trading week. I learned a good bit about from this trading this week, from the Asian session, to how I enter in with my smallest imbalances and how I'm setting my stop losses and everything. So I learned a lot this week. Just want to take it on to next week, and I'll see you guys next video. Make sure you like and subscribe. Check out the other content, and I'll see you guys on Sunday for my trade break or weekly prep trade breakdowns.